Hey, it's Tesla Canuck here, back with another video. I wanted to do a couple of tests with the Navigate on Autopilot and the new way that it works in terms of automatic lane changes. So it turns out it's not exactly fully autonomous on the highway or freeway or whatever you guys call it where you live. It still requires input, so basically what you have to do is you have to apply pressure to the steering wheel as opposed to clicking on the turn stalk. So it trades one form of input for the other, and I guess it's going to depend on what your preference is, which one you would have preferred, but there's no longer any choice. You have to apply pressure to the steering wheel in order to affect the lane change. So what I wanted to try out, there's two use cases here that I want to try. One is when there's densely packed yet fast moving traffic. That's the first scenario that we're going to try to capture. And then the other scenario that we'll try to capture is in the stop and go type of traffic as you're heading into a city during morning commute. So those are the two scenarios. Let's see what happens. I am in the right hand lane here, traveling at about 103 kilometers, I don't know, 64 miles per hour. Let's get started. First, we're going to juice it up. So we're going to make sure that we're going faster than this oncoming car. Sorry, this car that's in front of us. Let's juice it up some more. 120, and let's see what the car is going to do here. So I've got it in Mad Max mode. And then what we'll do is let's just put on the rear camera so you can see there's a kind of a car beside me. So it looks like the Model 3 is slowing down, trying to find an opportunity. So now I'm going to just put some pressure on the steering wheel, and the car is changing lanes. Okay, so let's keep this going. Let's see what it keeps doing. So this is the fast lane. You see there's a car coming up here. So let's just see what the Model 3 does. Okay, so now it's speeding up. There's a little bit of a gap behind me. You can't see it too well on this camera, but here I'm applying light force, and now it's moving. So I think the benefit of this new method is it does force you to continue to pay attention, and when it's time to actually affect that lane change, you're going to look around like you normally do, which is what you should be doing. It's not there yet to be totally fully autonomous, but this, I think it's a huge leap forward. I really do. I think that over the next year or so, everyone who's purchased full self-drive, I think we're going to get to level 3 autonomy in the next 12 months. That's my prediction. I mean, we're still at level 2, honestly, at best. So that basically is the, I wonder if it's going to tell me to get out of the left-hand lane here. It used to do that. Let's see what happens here. Because it's totally clear on the middle lane. One should really get out of the middle lane, or get out of the fast lane if they can. But it doesn't seem to be wanting to do that. Okay. So I guess that's the scenario where we've got some fast-moving traffic and it's packed fairly dense. I'll be back in a little bit as I get closer to my destination, and we'll do the second use case, which is that tightly packed stop and go, see how the car performs. Before we get to the scenario where it's tightly packed and slowly moving, I'm just going to leave the camera on, and I'll probably end up speeding up the film. I mean, nobody wants to watch like a 60-minute movie on on this, but if I speed it up a little bit, you'll get a feel for the journey and for a longer test. And if you want to, if you're not interested in the longer test, it's fully indexed in the comments, and you can skip right to the second use case. All right, let's enjoy and see what the car does. All right, I'm chiming in again here just because we got an interesting situation. Normally this exit right here on the other side, there's a lot of cars at this time entering the highway. So let's see what the Model 3 does when cars are entering the highway, and how it anticipates how it needs to move. Let's check this out. Well, normally when I come by here, there's a lot more cars entering the highway. I don't know what's going on. Like, this is 7:20 in the morning. It should be much heavier traffic, and it shouldn't be this fast. So, wouldn't you know it, when I want to try to do a test of something, I can't get the test conditions that I normally would get. All right, well. See what happens. Okay, now we're starting to get a slowdown. Okay. Let's see what happens here. Changing lanes in a faster lane. There's a truck that is like right in my... Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, all right, this is really cool. The car anticipates the move. So I'm not sure if you can tell by the cameras, but the Model 3 sped up and slowed down, you know, in order to kind of find that gap that it needed to change lanes. So we're going to do this again, and same thing. It knows where it is. The car really does, and it knows what's around it. I mean, the technology is really fantastic to actually kind of be here and experience it if you don't have a Model 3 or any other Tesla that supports this feature. It's really exciting. Tight squeeze. I know you can't really tell because of the camera, it's kind of wide angle or whatnot, but that was a pretty tight squeeze. Excellent. Well done, Q. Q is the name of my Model 3, named Q after Star Trek The Next Generation's character Q. Car's kind of omnipotent. Just like the character Q. Only I wish it could actually teleport. I guess that's the next big thing after full self-drive is going to be the Tesla teleporting car. Just, you're here 1 second, and then the next second you're at work. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I think that's a long way away, though. Probably the year 2275. If Tesla's still around. I think it will be. It does here. Excellent. I think the other thing that's really improved with the 2019.8.5 update, there's a lot less hesitation in the lane change. I mean, prior to this last update, the car felt very unsure of itself. Like, even when you had confirmed the lane change, the car would still kind of be very unsure about the lane change, but it just feels more natural. Kind of like how a human would change lanes, because you know how sometimes when you're driving in thicker traffic, fast-moving traffic, you know, you have a tight window, and often, you know, people aren't very courteous. They don't want to let you in, so you have to kind of scoot. And I think the I think the Model 3 is doing a good job of replicating the scooting, right? Where you find that gap and you enter that gap. You know, on a longer test like this, I'm telling you, it's really feeling close to full self-drive. It's so close. I mean, it's hard to even explain what's going on here, but I think the Model 3 Q is driving more aggressively than I would. So it's like doing a lot more lane changes than I normally would. So it's really true to the Mad Max setting, where if it's sensing slower moving traffic, it's going to dart in and out. Now, this setting is something that's configurable by the user. So if you're feeling like there's too many lane changes and it's feeling a little uncomfortable for you, you can go into the settings and you can change that. You can make it more of a mild type of setting. Whoa, this car's really close to me on the, you can't see it, it's probably out of the camera range, but okay. Yeah, you know, Q's aggressive. This is really cool. This is really, really cool. It's changing lanes again. Oh my God, okay. Maybe I'll have to take this thing off Mad Max, I don't know. We'll see if I get to work a lot earlier than usual. Oh man, this is too much fun. This is too much fun. Okay, so now we're actually getting into my second use case, which is the densely packed and slower moving. So we'll be able to get that use case in. Let's see how aggressive Q is going to be now. It's going to be a long video, folks. It's going to be a long video. I'll index it, but there's some I think there's some great footage that I think people, if they're inclined to watch all of it, will probably be happy with it. But I know people just want to, some people just want to get right to the point. So for those people out there just want to get right to it, you know, I will do an index. I think those people, like, you know, and when they watch certain kind of what should we call it to be YouTube friendly, let's just say when those people watch like a blue movie, I don't know if that term is going to be something that the youngins aren't going to, the millennials might not know what that is, but you know the type of movie I'm talking about. Those people probably just fast forward like right to the very end, you know. The ones that complain about having an intro to a video, or I don't know, whatever they complain about. So I will index it for those people. But this is going to be a long one. This is going to be a Tesla Bjorn long video. Speaking of which, I can't believe he wrecked his new Model 3 like within a week. If you haven't seen that video, you should watch it. He crashes into like a snowbank, which you would think wouldn't harm the car, but I guess it must have kind of frozen or something. But yeah, he trashed the front of his new Model 3. It's probably good for ratings though. I don't know if it's worth the headache. I'm not going to crash my Model 3. So for Mad Max mode, Q's been a little quiet here in the slower, densely packed traffic. I wonder if I can recognize that it's in a construction zone. Maybe it's dialed it back a little bit. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Q is awake. Let's see what happens. happens here. There's a... You know, it's interesting, the camera perspective here, where that van does not look like it's very close, but it's quite close, and Q just kind of squeezed in there. Not bad, not too shabby. I think when the traffic's like this, I'm not sure what it's going to do here. There's kind of nowhere to go. The other interesting thing about the technology is, and other Tesla owners will know, and there's some other cars that obviously do this too, but the Tesla can actually see beyond the car that's in front of me. So I wonder to what extent that plays in its kind of planning. Like, it would be able to see in front of this car to see if traffic is starting to move. This is a little bit scary. There's okay. I am glad it did not go in front of that truck. This is a very tough use case here. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, it did it. The reason why this scenario was, I called it tough, is because the left-hand lane, as you saw, was pretty much almost at a standstill, whereas the middle lane was still flowing fast. Right? So you have a situation there where you go from almost a standstill into a lane that is moving fast. So one of the things that we know from studies, right, is that it's not necessarily speed that kills, right? It's the speed differential. So when you're moving from one lane to the other, and one lane is almost stopped, and the other lane is going 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles per hour, you know, jumping out into that traffic, you know, that's where you can get into situations where that speed differential may lead to an accident if you're not careful. So that's why I called that particular scenario difficult, because that's what the Model 3 just navigated by itself. So, but it, you know, it kind of makes sense to me, because when, as a human driver, when I'm here and I'm looking through the rear view mirror, I'm looking through my side view mirror, when cars are coming fast in the lane to your right, like in this scenario that we just did, it's very difficult for a human to kind of gauge the actual speed, you know, do the math in your head, you know, how much time do you have to move over. Whereas with all the sensors that are on the vehicle, on the Model 3 and other Teslas, and it sees all of the traffic behind you, and those sensors can probably gauge, you know, exactly how fast the car is moving that's approaching you. So it probably has a better idea of that speed differential and whether or not it's safe to make that lane change. So I think there are definitely areas where, as this technology progresses, it's going to be much smarter than the human driver, right? And I think we're going to get to a time where, and it's going to take a lot of time because, you know, there's a lot of older cars on the road, but if we fast forward 20 years, where cars maybe are interconnected in some way so they can communicate with each other, right? Like, hey buddy, I'm going to slide on into this next lane, and the other car's computer will be, oh, okay, that's cool, I'm dialing back, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think that'll be good. One of the things, like, in the comments section that I normally get on these type of videos, some people chime in, they say like, don't you like to drive your car? Like, why do you want the car to drive itself? And it's a great question, right? And I'm not sure if others kind of feel the same way, but when it comes to my commute, right? To me, the commute is like completely utilitarian, right? It's like getting from point A to point B. You know, maybe you haven't even had your morning coffee yet. Like, you know, you're really not going to be out there for a joyous driving event. Maybe some people are, but once you've been working for a long time, and this is something that maybe the millennials haven't discovered yet, but especially if you commute long distances to work, is that it becomes monotonous. And it's not about whether you love to drive or not. And believe me, I love to drive. It's more about how can I make this the least amount of a pain in my ass as it can possibly be, because I really just want to get from home to work, right? And that's kind of where my mindset is at, right? So again, I love driving. It's not about the joy of driving. It's about the loathe of the commute. And maybe you have to have been commuting for several years before you start to feel that way, right? I don't know if you feel the same. Chime in on the comments section, or if you think that's totally whack, chime in too. I don't know, but that's just how I feel about it. Just the commute is a grind. That's all it is. So if I want to enjoy my drive, I'm going to go out on a Saturday or a Sunday or some other time when it's not like this, and then I'm going to enjoy my drive. This is just, like I said, a pain in the ass. Okay, I think at this point it's just going to be more of the same, so I'm going to end this video, but hope you enjoyed seeing what the Model 3 and I guess other Teslas are capable of with this new software release. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Tesla Canuck, over and out.